Greetings, fellow Americans. Welcome to Fireside Chat, State of Our Nation. I am your host, Susanna Tanner, candidate for House of Representatives 2026 and President 2028. First, a couple of thoughts. On January 8th in Portland, Oregon, 2 people were arrested for repeatedly ramming their vehicle into a vehicle rented by ICE. These people have been reported to be affiliated with the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. The woman pleaded guilty to entering the United States illegally and was given 1 year of probation. Under the American Integrity and Services Act implementation, there would be no probation. The AISA does not permit illegal residence starting 30 days after implementation of this act. These 2 people would be detained. They would appear before an immigration judge to determine if they had committed crimes in the U.S. Or anywhere else. And if no crimes were committed, they would be immediately deported. If they did commit crimes in the U.S., they would be put through our due process. And this would be to determine the extent. And when convicted, they would serve their time and then be deported. They would have permanent records here in the United States, which would bar them from future reentry. The AISA method of immigration reform, ensures we are within the bounds of the Constitution while protecting our nation. Now, about the National Housing Construction Project. Vancouver just conducted their point-in-time count, which helps agencies estimate how many homeless exist within our city currently. The NHCP values this number as it is a starting point for determining how much housing is actually needed here. Last year's PIT count was around 1,500 homeless. The larger our population, the higher the homeless rate will be if we continue to use the push them out method. We have the opportunity to solve this issue with the National Housing Construction Project. You can learn more about the NHCP and its mission by checking out episodes 136 through 138 of this podcast. And if you would like to donate to the NHCP mission, the QR code link the QR code is at the bottom of your screen right now, and it will be available in the description of the video upon episode release on Wednesday. Now, let's go over some more things regarding the National Wildfire Resilience and Forest Ecosystem Management Initiative. Let's go over a scenario, first of all, of how this works. Let's say there are 2 areas being managed in a state and a fire breaks out in one area. Let's say a heavy fuel area. Yeah. There are surplus funds through the lockbox system, both state and federal, to infuse with disaster relief to fight the fire. Half of the emergency management lockbox surplus would be immediately available to infuse specific agencies with funding for the first month. After that disbursement is determined by the progress of reducing the fire danger overall. Let's use California's 300,000 plus acre fire that happened in 2024, for example. If California's state lockbox system was in place, the emergency services all around would have had an immediate surge in funding. Then the national system would have kicked in and provided additional funding. Resources would have been more readily available and paid for. It may have been put out sooner with proper funding. The largest wildfire in recent California history was the Dixie Fire in 2021. That burned over 900,000 acres. That is a huge area. The NWRFEMI and the combination of the state and federal lockbox systems would have been able to immediately infuse emergency services with necessary funding to obtain supplies, transport resources, and more to potentially prevent these fires, any of these fires, from becoming so alarmingly large and to get people to safety. Not to mention emergency housing, food, and medical for those affected. The Emergency Services Lockbox is designed to handle the most expensive disaster in modern history, Hurricane Katrina. That was in 2005. This disaster cost more than $160 billion. With emergency funding from any surplus, be it a state or federal lockbox or both, or a program like the NWRFEMI, we can handle disasters with the knowledge that it is paid for. We have been waiting for emergencies to happen. We don't need to wait for that. So let's go over the system management strategy. The logical shift is from suppression to stewardship. So managing our areas. We currently spend billions in emergency suppression, fighting fires after they have already reached catastrophic intensity. This reactive model is a fiscal and ecological failure. The NWRFEMI shifts the mission to proactive stewardship. We do not wait for the ignition. We manage the fuel loads year-round to ensure that when fire does occur, it remains a natural, low-intensity ground fire rather than a toxic crown-killing event. Crown-killing meaning it just obliterates everything. With the strategy focusing on systematic reduction of ladder fuels, underbrush, and low-hanging limbs, and the restoration of natural spacing and high-risk zones, we can end up removing 70% of hazardous, non-native, or diseased biomass in designated high-risk interface zones. We can use movable processing facilities rather than transporting raw biomass over long distances, which increases carbon footprint. We utilize MPFs, movable processing facilities, to process material on site into mulch, biochar, or agricultural feedstock. It is precision forestry, utilizing satellite imagery and drone mapping. Drones are amazing for aerial views on low altitudes. We use these to identify hazard clusters without the need for clear cutting, preserving the old growth canopy while removing the fuse. These are logical steps to take to help reduce our impact on our climate. Now, there is a 2-to-1 planting mandate. We don't just remove the dead stuff, the fuel from the forest. We restore the forest. The mandate is for every single hazard tree removed during thinning or fire line operations, the NWRFEMI mandates the planting of 2 climate-resilient seedlings. Climate resilient, meaning they're going to be resistant to a lot of things, including bugs and seasonal weather and such. Genetic diversity is part of this mandate. Replanting efforts prioritize native, drought-resistant, and pest-resistant species identified through consultation with Native American tribal stewardship programs. there's a lot that our Native Americans can offer to do for us in this matter. And it's not really even that they're offering to do it for us, because they are one of us. They are part of our nation. Just because they're a sovereign nation within a sovereign nation doesn't mean that we cannot utilize unity to protect our environment and to make it continually habitable for us as human beings, all of us. There is accountability in this as well. Replanting is not a one-time event. Crews are mandated to perform 3-year survival audits on all replanted zones, funded by the environmental lockbox, which is lockbox 7. This is actually really important because this entire program, the NWRFEMI, it is a years-long program because you cannot just stop managing an area. This is a natural cycle that we have to be a part of if we want to make sure that our climate is livable. Now, the winter bridge is really important because it means that we're maintaining year-round momentum and providing stable full-time careers for crews and utilizing dual season operational models. The winter prep is, well, it obviously takes place in higher altitudes in the snow, November to March, heavy snow regions. Crews utilize specialized snow vehicles and snowmobiles to perform site surveys, tree tagging, and equipment staging. So basically prepping for the next season. The spring surge, April through June. Because the work is pre-tagged, which prep work is definitely a good thing, in the winter, thinning operations begin the moment the ground is workable, maximizing the window before the peak ignition season begins. The air quality and the PM 2.5 reduction goal. The primary public health goal of this strategy is to eliminate smoke season. Performance is the 70% reduction in toxic particulate material. That's the PM 2.5. That's emissions from wildfires within the first 10 years of implementation. The health link is important as well. By preventing catastrophic crown fires, fires like we've seen in California and such in recent years, we stop the release of massive carbon plumes that currently clog the lungs of our children and seniors across Washington and the nation. Because this doesn't happen just in Washington. It does happen in more than just California. It happens all across our nation. We have mountains on both sides. It's important to maintain all of it. Now, there are some pretty good health benefits, of course, from reducing pollution in our air. The problem with the particulate matter from catastrophic wildfires is that it travels thousands of miles. It increases rates of asthma, cardiovascular disease, and distress and respiratory illness in both rural and urban centers. So no one's immune from it. The solution is by aggressively reducing catastrophic fuel loads in these high-risk zones. The initiative stops the primary source of toxic air pollution before it even starts. Proactive thinning converts hazardous crown fire potential into manageable ground level heat, protecting national air quality. Lower heat means a lot in the spectrum of our climate. It is becoming more clearer that these types of pollutants are affecting our climate, affecting our atmosphere and what we're breathing in. We see it with heat domes and unusual heat waves during winter months and such. Now, the 2-to-1 mandate is really important. And we did, mentioned that a little bit. But these particular tree mandates, they include things like tree farms and making sure that we have the trees available to plant. So all of this is starting, it would be starting all at once. We'd have different areas going and things picking up speed for this. Harvesting biomass is really important with this because we also need to be able to refertilize our earth in various areas. And it can be used to restore the forest floor, retaining the soil moisture and suppressing invasive fire-prone grass. Now, the ecological knowledge, the traditional ecological knowledge from our Native Americans is also equally important. They are leaders. Many of them serve in our military, so they're veterans, which makes them even more higher of a priority for applicants for full-time positions. The NWRFEMI recognizes that most effective stewardship comes from those with generational connection to the land. Tribal leadership, Native American communities, integrating traditional ecological knowledge into modern forest management plans. There was actually a documentary I was watching a couple of years ago. I believe it was a National Geographic or Frontline, more than likely National Geographic. I'll have to look it up again. And it was showing how it was actually discussing how Native Americans used different methods before the technology that we have now to manage, hazardous areas and such. So it's really important for us to understand that there is this generational knowledge that can be used to really improve our situation in this matter. And because they're veterans, because many of our Native Americans are veterans, they're disciplined, they have organizational expertise. There are others who may be law enforcement, which would be part of the Retiree Oversight Corps. So it's to manage field crews and ensure strict adherence to OSHA safety standards. OSHA is very important when it comes to safety. They have an extensive testing portion that you have to know in order to be certified. You have to show that you practice it. We have seen companies before get fined because of violations of OSHA standards. So these are important. In order to make this work, we got to make sure that we're following safety standards. Operational knowledge, operational innovation, I should say, is part of the winter preparation. In high altitude regions where snow makes it impassable, I mentioned the snow vehicles and snowmobiles for tree tagging and site prep. So there's a lot we can do with this because in the wintertime, even though there are many days where there's going to be storms and blizzards and such like that, we can still have people ready to take a survey, an aerial survey during calm days to assess an area. So this is an example of how things are going to be used in this particular program. Now, the fiscal stability of this project is it is probably the most important aspect because it can start out with, and it does start out with, each state implementing a 0.11% national contribution, which is designated for this program specifically. but it eventually gets folded into or absorbed into the environmental lockbox. And so it is fully covered, and it contributes 11 billion annually until it's absorbed into the lockbox. Upon 5 years of proven efficiency is when it actually transitions. So the 0.11% sunsets and is absorbed by the environmental lockbox. Now, I hope that these things have given you a lot to think about because they are important to our safety and security. They are important for our livelihoods. We kind of need to have people to have a nation. We don't wait for the fire. We don't wait for people to fail us. We are putting our veterans and Native leaders in the woods in January so our kids can breathe in July. We take the fuel out, we put the future in, and we show the math. That is all I have for today. Thank you for your time, and may our path lead to peace and prosperity.